Welcome, everybody. We are about to get started. Let's see. The session we're about to undertake is what we call Notes from the Field here at the Association of Architecture Organizations. And this is where we welcome introductory remarks from representatives of new AAO members that we think are bringing a fresh voice to the field. This is meant to be a casual give and take among AAO members and a chance for you, almost in a lunch and learn kind of way, to get to know some of our new members. Today, we are joined by the newly installed director of Archon Rêve in Bordeaux, France. His name is Fabrizio Gallanti. He's actually piping in to us via Zoom from Montreal right now. And we are also joined by one of his lead staff, the longtime director of education, Sara Munier, who will be providing us a presentation shortly.
Hello.
We sent along a little bit of an introductory packet before this meeting. Archon Rêve is a very interesting case in the sense that if you were to look at the overall mission of the organization, you see big kind of master narratives like architecture affects everybody, and that the idea that making discourse on the city through cultural undertakings can in fact help a city to change direction for the better. And in that way, I think the overall outlook for Archon Rêve would resonate with a lot of US organizations and what they're trying to achieve. But where the difference comes in is that the program for young visitors is not complementary to the mission at Archon Rêve, but it's in fact the starting place for the entire program for all audiences. And very much with an emphasis on emphasizing the experience of space and an invitation to learn through play. Sort of the ethic being that if it can't work for young audiences, then it probably can't work very well for any audience. And here to say a little bit more for us about Archon Rêve is Fabrizio, and then we will get underway with the presentation. When the presentation is over, there'll be time for a group conversation among all of us. Fabrizio, welcome and take it away.
Thank you very much for having me. So the presentation will be composed of two parts. I will do a very brief introduction about Archon Rêve, who we are, to then pass the mic to Sara Munier, who is the responsible at Archon Rêve for all the pedagogical activities. So my name is Fabrizio Gallanti. I'm since April 2021 the director of Archon Rêve, which is an association, meaning that it's a non-profit organization that was founded in France, in Bordeaux, in 1981 by Francine Faure and Michel Jacques. And the name, as Michael was somehow implying, indicates very clearly how the issue of education and pedagogy was core to the identity of the institution, because ARC stands for architecture. En, which is in French, is also an abbreviation of enfance, childhood. And Rêve is probably also a little bit of a kind of like a consequence of the very optimistic vision of the 60s and 70s, where through various action it was meant to, somehow the institution was meant to stimulate a new engagement of citizens towards architecture. What we do at Archon Rêve, that is a publicly funded structure, meaning that we are an independent association whose budget of functioning is almost entirely covered by the city of Bordeaux, Bordeaux Metropole, the region, and the state of France. These are quite complex articulation of financing that are quite typical in France. What we do is exhibitions of architecture in the two galleries that we have within a far larger space. Of course, a quite complex series of atelier, workshop, initiatives with families and schools. You see a few images. We very much want to engage a multiplicity of audiences. So we try to set up content that can be channeled either towards professionals, either towards decision makers and politicians and people in the building and construction industry, and also the general public. So the idea is that architecture has an impact on anyone's life, and hence the way with which we deal with architecture as a cultural product is also conceived as capable of touching at very different audiences. So if we go back one image, Sarah, the one before. So this is the large space in the building that we inhabit together with the Contemporary Art Museum of Bordeaux. This is a space that is given to Archon Rêve every 4 to 5 years for a larger exhibition. Otherwise, we have two smaller spaces that are continuously used to produce 4 exhibitions per year. Next.
Sorry.
So these are two of the last shows that we realized in one of our two galleries. So we never see an exhibition as a product per se that then is complemented by educational activity. The two components are always intertwined in the sense that on one end, and Sara will be more explicit, we somehow use an array of pedagogical tools that have been developed over the years that are offered to various constituencies, but also around certain exhibition, we start from the beginning to consider which actions need to be accompanying. Other very important components are discursive practices, lectures that either take place at our site, or often we try to bring the discussion elsewhere. So AAO has a fairly intensive activity outside of the place where we do operate. These are an itinerary café d'architecture, it was called, an itinerary event where projects that were being under development in different parts of the city were debated with citizens. We multiply the ways of attack, so as to say, through publications, because of course we're quite conscious that not everyone will be able to travel to Bordeaux to participate to our activities. So for us, the website and the publication have been a very potent tool with which to circulate our ideas. This in particular is a catalog that was realized a few years ago about all the different practices of engagement with students produced in France by different institutions. So AAO became as AAO has been one of the first to engage with such activity, it launched an initiative to gather all the different ones that have appeared in the last 40 years. That became a seminar, that became a publication, and an exhibition that has been traveling very recently to the Seoul Architecture Biennale. Somehow to prove the fact that this is an expanding field of action for our discipline. And as you will see soon through Sara's presentation, the way with which this engagement occurs is very diverse. We really believe in the sensorial experience of modifying space and really working with items and objects in a certain way where the audience is always engaged actively. It's important for us to go towards sites. Architecture is best experienced in the real space in one-to-one initiatives. The role of the body is very important for us to really understand. The city is our playground, so the city, the territory become the place where we try to go and see what an exhibition, of course, can channel, but with a direct experience. And for us, it's very important somehow to bring our audiences. We really believe in our mission, that is to make each citizen a little more knowledgeable about the quality of architecture, so as to be able to demand quality for themselves. And in France, it's not so impossible, because a lot of political action by mayors and administrators is often done on the basis of projects that are proposed to the citizens, and therefore an informed citizen will vote and will take decisions also with the idea of what environment architecture can be provided to them. So this is a kind of very generic and general overview of what we do and who we are. Of course, you can find much more information on our website. And for today, Sara has prepared a presentation of 5 different actions that we take within the component of education at AAO. The 2 very last information. So we are currently 22 employees, myself included. Then we always welcome 3 to 4 interns that complement our teams. And currently the team that is dedicated to education and pedagogy is composed of 2 full-time members, to which different interns or other members of the staff can be added when needed. Historically, that component has in the past even been more important. So at some moment, especially in the beginning, where it was necessary to build up the core of this component, it was between 5 and 8 people at some moment. Of course, it was also another period of much larger revenues and financing from the public. Like everyone else in Europe, our funding, which is still very good, has shrunk a little. And so the team as a whole, and also that component, has slightly been reduced. So now we are 2-3 people facing an overwhelming increase of demand for our activities. So we will be seeing in the future how we can somehow make this element much more robust. Okay, I'll hand it over to Sara. And
thank you, Fabrizio. Hello, everyone. I will present you 5 of our tools that we use with children teenagers for some project and to talk about architecture with them. The first one is one of our first tool, but we still use it 40 years after, because it's really a tool, like it's a never-ending tool. We can use it everywhere. Or it's an inflatable structure. It's an ephemeral architecture that is built with very simple materials, like 2 sheets of plastic. And sorry, we can use it to sorry, I will begin. It's an ephemeral architecture we use to talk about architecture, and it's the first experience we use with children to talk about architecture with them, and we use to talk about the first notion of space, like above, around, inside, outside. We can talk about it with surfaces and volume. And how we use it, it's like we call it gonflable in French, which is inflatable. So if I use this word, it means inflatable. The gonflable is it's folded at the beginning of the workshop, and we deploy it through the workshop with the children. The children deploy it actually, which each steps we put them on it, like how many can stand on it, like if they stand up, or if they are seated or lying down. So we deploy it. We have several gonflables. The one we use the most, it's like 6 meters by 6 meters, the size of it. And after we can go above and under, around, and after that we insufflate air in it. So it began to grow up. It can go to 3-4 meters high. Sorry, I'm back.
Oh.
So we can use it inside or outside. This one is different. It's longer. It's like 8 meters by 12, I think so. So we use it to modify spaces. We like to use it in spaces that they know and which they use every day, like the schools, because we can do this workshop in our office. We have a room for that, or we go into the schools or in the metropolitan area of Bordeaux. And we use it with children very young, since 3 years old to adulthood, actually. And at the end, we go inside. So we have several, like we have like one with semi-transparent, or we have others who are totally black. And so for the children, it's a very strong experience. Some of them don't want to go in because they're afraid of the dark, or still afraid of the dark. And you can see like some stars in the photo. It's like it's some with the utilization of the gonflable, we have some holes that appears in the material. So we have, when we are inside, we have the impression to be under the stars, you know. There, and at the end we can de-inflate it with the help of the children, so they run through it. So yes, with this workshop, it's very like it's a very visual and physical experiences of architecture, and we can it's a first entry in architecture, especially for the children. It's a very spatial experience. The second one, we have like 300 wooden houses module that we use to talk about like housing and landscaping or territory, like how do you create city, or how do you create city, sorry, how, what is the countryside, what is the city, etc. So this tool is we can use this in very various ways, again with children, that with adults, and with adults. So we can start with an installation, as you see, with different like different installation or form of city or, or territory. Or we can start with an empty room, and the participants start to creating a territory by putting one house by one on the ground, and we see grow up a form of city, a territory where you have like some place more dense than others, some where we have houses like where you have a lot of space between them. So, and we can put some elements of the territory too, some roads, some river, using like the cracks or the ground or the specificity of the place we are. And in second times, they have to create cities with different instruction. Some of them have to do cities that high cities or low cities or very dense cities or different instructions. So we can see that we have all the form of cities exist in the world, and at the end of each of our work, sorry, we always go outside of the place we are, in the meaning that we are showing photos or videos of real spaces. That's for this one that we show a PowerPoint with various cities all around the world, so that what they do was not just put houses on the ground, but they create cities like they are created in the world. And with this tool, we try to make them understand that building a house, sorry, it's not just an individual act. You have always to deal with the context and the neighborhood and what you have on the surroundings. So yeah, we try to make them understand that. With the younger ones, we talk about the density. So one way to use it, we put 3 squares on the ground, on the ground, and 3 different sizes, and we put the same number of modules in it. So the children can see that it creates very different environments or very different type of densification or city with a different environment size. If we are mod size, you can be if you're less place, you have to go higher and you take less space on the ground. Don't hesitate to tell me if my English is a bit weird and if you don't understand what I'm saying. Okay. The third tool, it's like a role play, and you are perhaps a bit familiar with it. We use a role play where we put some architecture or design object in trial instead of a person. It's a tool that we develop through this kit called One Building, One Architect. where it was a kit that we can send to the teachers. They can use it on their own or with Arc en Rêve. It's a really multi-use tool. And we created this one in 2007 with 15 remarkable buildings, remarkable contemporary architecture all around the world. And one way of using this kit was to use a trial. So here we can see one of the inside of the kit, which each building we have like a poster and a tool, a small book written with an architect and a children writer. So the text in the small books are really accessible to the children, and you have like a manual instruction for the teacher or to use the kit and some more information too. One of the use was an architectural trial where we have 3 teams, the group. We really often work with the class, with the teachers. Many of our activities are done in groups because architecture, it's a matter of group and living with each other too. So we like that. Sorry, I will go back just a few, if I can. Okay, there. For this one, we put we have several buildings put in trial, more often three of them, and we have 3 teams. The participants are divided in 3 teams: the defender, the attorney, and the prosecutor, and they had to defend the point of view that is imposed on them, because they don't have the choice of the building nor the point of view that they have to defend. It's like a debate actually. And the third group are the jurors, and at the end of the trial they have to vote for the best, not if they like the building or if for their friends, but the best. I don't remember the name in English. It's plaidoirie in French. Fabrizio, if you can help me, like.
So yes.
The plaidoirie, or do you say it in English?
So you basically, I think it's quite similar to the way trials are organized in the US. So we have an attorney, we have the attorneys, so the accusation that will try to somehow to demonstrate how the building is a failure or not responding to its own premises. The defense, sorry, we have the prosecutor will try to demonstrate that the building is not as good as it declares it to be. The attorney, instead, they will try to convince the jury that the building is actually quite fantastic in its development. And a third part of the group are the jury. So it's really this the kind of argumentation that you find in a trial. What is interesting to know is that all the people in the room, they have exactly the same material available. So the documentation, the evidence is the same for all. So it's really about being imposed a role, like it happens in schools, for instance, and try to develop an argumentation for or against the project.
And this one is a tool we can use with like teenager from middle school, but we can use it too with adults. It was very well too. Here was a session with architects and promoters and people of the construction field, architectural fields. So they have to debate about the building in the Bordeaux area, contemporary architecture of Bordeaux. It was a stadium and a building who hosts several cultural activities in Bordeaux. This one was invented by the creator of the education program of Arc en Rêve. Sorry, it was from the idea came to him through the Brancusi trial in the beginning of the 20th century. when Brancusi wanted to show an exhibition in the United States with a sculpture called the Bird, I think, and it was a process against the border because they thought that was just a piece of metal and not an object of art. So as object of art, you don't have to pay taxes at the borders, but if it's like industry object, you have to pay taxes. So the trial was about that what is art, and the idea came from we can do the same for architecture with the trial. The fourth one project was a big project that we did 2 years in a row, and it was a project which permitted us to touch people in France outside of Bordeaux, in all the area of France. We made two editions. Where the first one was a national edition, and the second one was more like about the region and the metropolitan area. So we created a kit that we sent to classes. It was the project was the meeting between a class and an architect and a building near the school. So we basically we searched some buildings in France. For this one, it was 6 houses and 6 public buildings in all the French territory. And we contacted, it was building constructed less than 10 years ago. So very contemporary architecture. So we have contacted the architects to know if they were interested to participate in the project. After, we have to contact the owner of the houses or the user of the building. And after that, we have to look for schools or middle schools interested to participate in the project. And we had to organize all of that, all the agenda to create a moment and a meeting of architecture. For that, you can see some of the buildings we have selected and the children visited. For that, we created a kit too, where it was divided in two moments. It was really a meeting with contemporary architecture and local contemporary architecture. So we had, like, in the kit, you have how to use the instruction manual, how to use the kit, and a book to discover architecture, and which talk about 3 houses, which big name of architecture. And 2 of them are in Bordeaux, actually, the one by Rêve and the one by Lacaton et Vassal. The other one it's in Japan. And the number 1 envelope was really for the teacher and the class, and the number 2 envelope was the document for the children, for each student. So you have a discovery of contemporary architecture in general, and you have documents about the building that they will visit, and about some information about the architect that they are going to meet. So after this introduction in class, they did the visit with the architect, the meeting, and during this visit, they had some instructions to do drawings or to ask questions to the architect. And after that, they had to send us all of that, and we did like something like a feedback or a book, which with every children drawings and what they said about the architecture or the question they asked to the children during the visit. And we made some 2 books, like you have this one. I will show you in the slide after. And I can read some of the words of the children for you if you want. For example, Diego said, I like to ask a question to the architect. It was like to have
the craft, the profession.
The profession in front of me. Or Ruben said, I like the room with the Japanese stairs. Upstairs, there was a room with a curtain, and at least we are well hidden in it, etc., etc. So there we have with children, and the first edition was with children from primary school and middle school, and for the second edition we did with children from 8 to 18, so was from primary, middle, and high school. There it was the restitution. The last project I want to show you, yes, the architect, I have a question. The architect lead the tour. We managed the project, but Arconred didn't go to each building because some of them were far away. So we organized the agenda, the meeting, but once it was okay, they lead the visit. This project of State of the Cocoon was a long-term project through one school year with 2 classes of middle school from children of 12, 13 years old. And it was, we did several interventions with this project through the year. We were contacted by the two teachers of the school. One with children, I don't know the level in the United States, but in French it's 5e for children from 12 years old, and the other one was so it was the art teacher for this class, and the second teacher was the French teacher, but for children for non-speaking French children. They just arrived in French, so it's for the project was a reason for them to blend with the other students and the French students of the other class, and it was a way for them to learn all the spatial vocabulary and around architecture. It was a sort of learning French. So we started with this project. So around the cocoon, small spaces where you are good with the gonflable, the project I showed you earlier. And we did just near the middle school, you have a big park, a bit wild actually, park, and the teacher wanted to work on this part, and I didn't tell you the aim of the project. It was to build cocoon for the small architecture for the children, and so they did that with the teachers during the school year, and they did like some drawings and models of in groups of the cocoon they'd like to create, and we helped them to put it in the environment. So the first one we did like what we called sensitive lecture, sensitive tour of the park near the school, with some instructions. So they have to look the landscape through frames, square frames or round frames. So it was in a way to discover the park with different eyes. And after that, they draw the cocoon in groups, and they realized the model. And the third intervention for us was to locate the cocoon in the park. So they have to choose the place where they wanted to put this cocoon in the park. So we started from the center of the park, and they didn't bring the models for the session, but we have like you can see in the bottom of the photo, we bring frame. We represented the door of the cocoon, and they had to put it in the landscape, put this door, and it was like the emplacement of their cocoon and where the door opened in the front of which landscape. So they did go with the frame and the door and the name of the cocoon. You can see written on it. They choose the place, and after that, they you can see one of them. They had a ribbon, and they got back with the ribbon to the center where we started the day. So as you can see, from one point you can go to every cocoon in the park, and so they can they show to the other student or the friend where the cocoon was located, and we took photo of the different locations, and after that they did like photo montage where they put the models of their cocoon in the photo. And for the end of the project, we had a day we made like an all day of construction, and with we call that lito. It's like a wooden stick we can use in various ways to take structure and to build their own cocoon. It was an all day experiment with two classes of children. Actually, there's like 40 teenagers at the same time, so we had to occupy them all the day, and we did a geodesic dome for the day, so we can see there. So after we build the structure, we put them like we decorate it. You can see. I'll show you like a time space. There, you can. I'll show you. You can see. It's all the day in 1 minute. You can see the building. And because it was outside in a public park, sorry, I went too fast. In a public park, we had to deconstruct it all in the same day. So here a photo at the end. We just enjoy the moment after the construction. There. I have finished.
Sara.
Any question?
Hold on, I'm going to invite. If you could stop the screen share, Sarah.
Okay. Yes.
And then I'll unpin you, and we can
okay.
See everybody.
I couldn't see all the questions during the presentation, so I'm starting to read them.
This is amazing.
I tried to answer.
So fun. I would just say it's so great to see this work from talking to you earlier, and just to sort of see it all come together. And I had one question about the. It looks like with the first exercise with the middle schoolers, you're using the inflatable. It seems to me, I imagine you were using it for them to sort of begin to experience space.
Yes.
And then think about how it relates to the cocoon, or how it might relate to the cocoon. So I'm just wondering about that with the younger children. You do a lot of work with that intervention of space, but is there also discussion about emotions and how space feels and different scales and things like that.
Yes, because architecture is that too. It's like how we feel in the space, alone and with people, or you are in the space actually. So we help them like to put words on it, and or they feel, or they.
One thing that is interesting is that in the beginning of Arc en Rêve, it was really starting from the idea to use spatial experiences as a tool for alternative pedagogies, especially with children affected by autism. But then quite quickly, Arc en Rêve realized that these kind of experiences could be applied to a far wider audience. In the sense that some of them are so basic and in a good sense, that they are so profoundly touching on each one feeling and emotional experience that we Arc en Rêve understood, well, these tools have been originally developed especially for a certain age bracket, but actually they can be slightly modified and adapted to almost everyone. And so over the last 40 years, you only saw 5 today, but there's a whole array of a total of 15 formats that can be redeployed, every time slightly adapted. Because what Sarah has mentioned is that often these ateliers are realized and produced and developed in close collaboration with schools. And therefore each professor has slightly different demands and requests. So they're kind of like fairly flexible palimpsests that then need some adaptations. And as you have seen in a few instances, it really works very well with adults. So we have other formats. So the one with the small houses, it has been done also with adults, and they tend to be working very well, no matter what is the age bracket.
We use the same tool with children and adults. We just change the discourses, and or what we are saying to them. It's more developed with adults. We talk about fewer. Sorry, I lost the word in French too. A fewer notions with the children, but we prefer like to talk about through 2 or 3 notions with one workshop. But we hope that they just retain one, remember one.
Sarah, I didn't ask you this yesterday, but maybe the same question about the cocoon, like why a cocoon and who chose a cocoon and what were the principles?
The teacher for this project, the teacher came to us. It was the second years we work with them. The first years, it was I forgot to talk to you about it. It was a project we did with a landscape designer too, Vanessa Lédier, because it was a project about architecture and landscape. So they approached us the year before that, and they did a project about it was like the notion of refuge. It was more about that, because it was with children who are travel. We came from other country, and so the refuge is a small space when we feel well in it. And they for the second years they wanted to continue about this notion of small spaces and where we feel well, and it was the cocoon came up, so we went on that.
Any other questions from the group? Feel free to unmute and just talk, Julia.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I have a question for you, Sarah. Your programs, though, in France, though, is the architecture actually in like the national curriculum or curriculum at all, or how does it work for your programs? Are you matching them to school curriculum for them easily to be put into schools?
We try to work. We work with schools many, but architecture, there's not really really good architecture education in France. Sorry, and especially in contemporary architecture, the patrimony and the old architecture is really well known, and the teachers like it a lot, and they go on that. And our work, we put the emphasis on modern and contemporary architecture. So And the architectural education, the national education in France is very poor. It tends to reduce to only the what we call like development, sustainability of the materials. And we work with, like, what we are saying is that architecture concerns everyone and in all the fields. You know, we work with a mathematics professor or art professor or geography teacher or history teacher, with everyone. So they approach us with different demands, so we can talk about architecture. It's really one-to-one with or we propose something like a project who are existing and the teachers sees it, or they came to us and we built a project together.
There's one thing, Julia, which is very interesting that is specific to France, is that as Sarah was saying, architecture is not part of the curriculum of education until you become an architecture student. That, of course, is a different matter. Nevertheless, the way France is organized, and it was a real surprise to me, is the following. So education is managed nationally by the state, but the buildings where the education is performed, they are realized by different level of government. So for instance, for young kids, it's the city that will build the building. So the container is not state, it's local. So and it operates at different levels. So young kids, primary school is the city. College, which basically high school is split in two parts in France. College, which is between 13 to 15, it's the département, that will be a province that builds the shell. And then high school, that is between just before university, so between 15 and 18, it's the region. So you have a lot of programs that are financed by these organisms that are quite powerful, somehow to inject back a little bit of architectural knowledge. So for instance, we in our region, Gironde, there's a high increase of demographic increase. So there's every year new population is coming to the region. Therefore, new schools need to be built. So the département is building the new school. So this year they will open 5 new establishments, and they do have some programs of sensibilization for the students, like visit to the works. At the lycée level, there's a program where the students learn about the building where they study, and they become guides of the building themselves. So in special days where it's called the Journée du Patrimoine, where people will flock modernist building all over the region, the student themselves will teach the visitor about the building. So there's a lot of programs that are financed and sponsored by this organism. Sometimes they work with Arc-en-Rêve, but we are not the only actors in the field. It's quite rich as a way, as you say, to complement the lack of formal pedagogy on architecture in the schools.
Great, thank you.
And we have help from the culture ministry too, because we have in French that the national education want the children to have access to culture, and they put a system in place which called like éducation artistique et culturelle, cultural and artistic education. So they had the teachers to go out of the school and to bring the children to be in contact with art. More often it's with the museums or paint or what the teacher feels more more. They go with what they want to do, but it's often it's museum or dance or theater. But some of them want to talk about architecture, and we work very often in that frame.
I have a question. Is it okay, Michael? Okay. My name is Pia, and I work at the Danish Architecture Center at Copenhagen. We have met, Sarah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to see all of your projects. Also, some of them again. I have read your publications and also seen some of your exhibitions. And I enjoy going to Bordeaux and experience that. I was curious to know how many children and young people take part of these programs per year, just to have an idea, because it seems as if it's, I mean, perhaps also a little bit longer programs, not only in terms of, I mean, our visits are very often 1 hour, 2 hours per group. This looks like something that could take a day or so. So how do you manage doing that? And I guess you are traveling a lot to do these projects also.
No, the projects are mainly in Bordeaux or the metropolitan area. We go. The one we did on the French territory was by postal service, actually, but because we send books with it, so it was a kit we send. So I don't have the numbers right now, but it's like 100 intervention periods, 100, 150, depends between splits between our exhibitions tour, the workshops, or we are doing some building tours too, and city tours, some neighbor tours too. So it's like we touch like 200 kids per year, I think it depends. And some of them, we see them various times. So we can see like 3-5 times a year. And the workshop, like the inflatable structure or game of houses, it's like the workshop 1 hour and 32 hours. The last one was the last intervention, the last one, the building construction was all day long. So it depends on the project, actually.
But sorry, in total, it's between 7,000 and 10,000 individuals that we touch every year with very different formats. No? Yeah, that's the total. So no,
children and a teenager and adulthood.
I mean, my office, I have windows on the access to the atelier, and every single day it's almost a permanent entering and exiting of classrooms. There was a question also on the chat, and it's interesting that it's true that the majority of our activities are always channeled through schools. It's true. So it has been a format that has been developed since a long time. What we now would be like to do is, in collaboration with the Contemporary Art Museum, our neighbors, we will test this in the summer, is also to directly address families, or somehow establish a series of programs that can be accessed without having to pass through the school system. So we will make a test this summer. It's a summer camp of 1 week. It's a co-production with the Contemporary Art Museum, and this is open, so that it's not through the filter of school. So we think that there is a potential, especially on the summer, where maybe many kids are not leaving town. So the possibility to start to engage audiences that are not through that. We also have, this is also managed by education, a lot of guided visits to the exhibitions. So we have our exhibition, and you can book and come to the museum and be toured in the exhibition by the same structure that runs Sara. And this is also a way to engage with audience that are not somehow channeled through the school system. And the visits also, they are somehow differentiated depending on the sort of public. So some are more for adults, but you can also book, especially on weekends, for families.
Fabrizio, this has come up a few times, so maybe it's good to get on the same page with you on this. But so people are interested in the publications and the kits. And I think you mentioned some may be available or not, but I can handle this after the program. But tell us what
the simple way. So we, of the kits that were kits and publication that Sara showed to use, some of them we still have many copies, some are sold out. So we need to, we can make an assessment from our end. Whatever is not sold out, we will be more than pleased to send it to you by mail. So there's and for free.
You can go to the website too. I think you can find it.
But maybe the simplest would be to collate all the requests from your end.
Yep.
So and then we can send you back a very simple list of what is available. Again, maybe the simplest would be for us to make a package of maybe always the same package to the same will be sent out to the same institution. The kits maybe are a little bit harder to have them because they were really produced especially for some initiatives, so we don't have many extra copies around. But the publication in that we can very easily sort out many of them. They are mostly in French, so you need to you'll have to do a little bit of a Google Translate.
Okay, well, we'll organize, Sarah, and when I do a wrap up with everybody, we'll have the information for you, John. I think we have time for one last question, and it came from, I think Daniela was asking whether there are any projects that you run that are entirely youth-led or where the emphasis is the youth deciding.
Not so much, but we want to do that in the future. We didn't do that before, mainly because of we are not so many in the structure doing those activities. So it was simply a question of time and what to do. So we manage projects with schools, but we want to do the more projects youth-led in the future.
Well, I want to thank both of you for the presentation. It was concise and inspiring and very helpful. We have a few other notes from the field, and I think it's a series we'd like to continue. For those that are on the call, we will edit this down a bit and send out a video. And our next program will be on May 12th, and it's a lecture. It's a keynote lecture called "The Olmsted and All of Us," and it's going to be delivered by Charles Birnbaum, the founder of the Cultural Landscape Foundation. And that will happen at 6 o'clock Central Time because it's happening in Chicago. But we will obviously we'll do that as a hybrid program so people can Zoom in. And we will make the recording available to members where 6 p.m. Chicago time is just not convenient. But he talks a lot. It's a great talk where he looks at Olmsted, which is, of course, the 200th anniversary this year of the birth of Frederick Law Olmsted. But he kind of takes him apart as a designer and a planner and an educator and a reformer and an innovator, and goes through all of the different pieces that he's had an impact on. And the legacy firm of the Olmsteds touched, I think, over 6,000 projects, of which 200 are on the National Register in the United States. So I don't think there's any designer with that number on the National Register. So when we think about public space in America, he's obviously had a pretty big imprint on our thinking. But so that will be May 12th at 6 p.m. And thank you all for the hour. And thank you again to Sarah and to Fabrizio for your work on this.
Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure to exchange with you. It helps us also a lot to think back what we do. It's always a welcome occasion.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.